Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and welcome to the 2011 Chester Mayoral Debate. My name is Leslie Thomas, co-chairman of Inner City Alliance, who organized this debate this evening in partnership with Widener Student Groups, League of Women Voters, NAACP Chester Branch, Delta Sigma Theta, Chester Alumni, and National Congress of Black Women, Delco Chapter. Unfortunately, Widener President Dr. James T. Harris III could not be here this evening due to previous engagements. But we would like to thank Widener for providing a venue for such an important and memorable debate. Tonight's moderator is CBS 3 News reporter Dre Clark. In August, myself and 3 other members of Inner City Alliance were conversing at a barbecue in the backyard about the fact that many people we knew did not know the plans of our candidates and where they stood on certain issues. That day, we decided amongst ourselves that this election needed a forum where city residents could become informed on the issues at hand. During this process, someone told me that there are 14,000 residents eligible to vote, and only 4,000 to 5,000 vote, essentially telling me that Chester does not care. Well, look around you in this room, Chester, right now. We care. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Young Democrats and College of Republicans who will introduce our candidates this evening. We will start first with the College of Republicans.
Good evening. My name is Craig Ricks. I'm the current president of College Republicans here at Widener University. On behalf of the College Republicans, I would like to introduce current incumbent mayor of Chester and Republican nominee, Mr. Wendell N. Butler, Jr.
Good evening. My name is Valeria Porter, and I am the Community Outreach Director for the Young Democrats here at Widener University. I'm also a lifelong resident of Chester. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce the current councilman and Democratic candidate for mayor of Chester, Mr. John Linder.
Exactly what I thought it was going to be. Spirited indeed. Good evening once, good evening twice, good evening 3 times. It's good to look out and see this room jam-packed. I know the organizers were questioning if people were going to actually show up tonight, but I told them, don't worry, this is the most talked about thing in town. It's going to be jam-packed, and I was clearly right. I want to say a special thank you to Inner City Alliance, the League of Women Voters, as well as the Republican Party and the Democratic Party for their consideration and the invitation to be tonight's moderator. I have been charged with the simple responsibility of moderating tonight's much-anticipated debate. It will be part of my job to ask questions and to make sure the candidates adhere to the rules that have been established and mutually agreed upon by all parties involved with tonight's debate. More importantly, this debate is about you. You, the constituents, you, the voters. We encourage you to actively participate in this debate by asking questions. This is your opportunity to ask questions and to receive answers from the candidates in their own words. Your participation in this debate is crucial to its success. As many of you have done, you can write down your questions on the index cards. White was reserved for the mayoral candidate, and the color cards were reserved for the council candidates who will debate following this mayoral debate. There are ushers on either side of the room where you can hand your card in. They will then bring the card to my left, your immediate right, and the questions will be screened by the Inner City Alliance, 2 members from the Inner City Alliance, and 2 members from the League of Women Voters. It is my hope that each of you who decided to submit a question wrote it clearly and legibly, since I am responsible for asking your question. Also, if you by chance submitted your name on your index card, I will gladly call your name and ask you to stand so that the candidates may know where that question is coming from. If you submitted the question anonymously, that's okay also. We will ask as many audience questions within our allotted time for this debate. Now the rules for the debate will go as follows, which, by the way, the candidates and their respective teams have agreed to follow. First, the audience. We ask that there be, unless you're press, that there be no recordings of tonight's debate. Also, we understand that both sides are clearly represented, and there are campaign workers here, but we would ask that you reserve your applause in the interest of time, so again, that we may ask as many questions of these 2 candidates as possible. Now, the rules for the candidates. They will each have 1.5 minutes to answer each of the questions presented to them, and 30 seconds for rebuttal. We do have a time monitor sitting up front. The yellow card will indicate to the candidates that they have 30 seconds left in their answer. The red card simply means stop. The candidates have agreed to forego opening statements. So with that in mind, let us begin tonight's mayoral debate with the first question going to Councilman John Lindner. Councilman Lindner, it is estimated that 25% of Chester's population is living below the poverty level. Some attribute that high number to a lack of jobs. The city's unemployment rate is estimated at 20%. That is more than double the state's overall unemployment rate, which is just above 8%. With that in mind, you have said and been quoted as saying that you would like to see 200 new jobs if you are elected as mayor in your first 4 years in office. How do you plan to bring those 200 new jobs here to the city of Chester?
First of all, in most urban districts, especially now, you have a higher rate of unemployment, which is double either the state average or the national average. And in addition to that, where you have low job rates, you usually have higher training rates and higher college rates to go up. So that means to me that we need some training in this city to prepare our people for jobs. We are living back in the 20th century, and we have 21st century requirements. So jobs will be brought here, but we need to prepare people for the jobs. We brought other things here, and our people have been laid off or fired because they weren't prepared to take those jobs. So I want to prepare the soil, then we plant the seed, and we get the jobs here. We've talked to people, and people will come here. Also, we're going to have to look at bringing people here on an international level as well as a local level. We need to train people for business. We need to prepare them for entrepreneurship, and that's when we'll get the jobs and we'll get people working like we're supposed to.
Mayor, same question.
Okay. Well, I think I've already embarked along the line of how to get jobs here in Chester. It all started with the harness racing track at Harris. And Harris came along. There's almost 200 residents working there. The PPL Park, there's 55 out of every 100 people working at PPL Park is an actual city resident. Of hired police officers, certainly city employees. The list goes on as far as job creation goes. And that's what this has all been about, bringing in economic development so that there are jobs available. And also creating the workforce coordinator position in Robert Reese to prepare our residents for jobs so that they become more employable. And we never had that position in the city before until I came on board. And I thought it was a must that we have that position to work with our residents, so that they can learn how to dress, learn how to do applications online, learn how to interview. And this is all part of the overall job creation, getting Chester residents 4 jobs here in the city of Chester.
Mayor, we have to realize that 55 out of every 100 people that work at the stadium 2 days a week is not sustainable to help this city economically or socially or spiritually. We've got to get sustainable jobs in here, and while they do have job preparation, we need to really help them with some training, with some skills. Taking an interview is different than training from skills, and we need to start training our people how to go to be able to develop some skill sets that are marketable.
Mayor Butler, you mentioned a moment ago Harris Casino, and you, under your administration, have been credited with ushering in major new economic revitalization here, including Harris and PPL Park and the Wharf, just to name a few. Yet the city still remains under Act 47, essentially a label for distressed cities. You have indicated you would like to remove that label during the next phase of your administration. Where do you start? How do you start to shake that label?
Well, I think we've already started because of our fiduciary responsibility. We've been running a balanced budget ever since I came on board in '02. And because of that economic development of Harris and PPL Park and the Wharf at Rivertown, yes, they are here under a KOZ initiative, but come January 1, 2013, they have to pay their assessed value. And that's going to have a huge impact in our general revenue fund, which we're working every year to get from under the Act 47, and we've also reduced the earned income tax. We also have reduced other taxes that have allowed us to put ourselves in a position to get from under Act 47.
Councilman Linder.
Yeah, I agree with the mayor that we will be coming out from Act 47, but we have a balanced budget because Act 47 required us to have a balanced budget. We had to lower taxes because Act 47 required us to lower taxes. But even if we lower taxes and the quality of life don't change, it still doesn't help us. And we have to get Harris and all the other entities that came, and incidentally, Harris came through the state and wasn't just an idea of Mayor Butler. The state came here and Mayor Butler was part of that, but those ideas for Harris to be here came from the state. So I'm just saying that, yeah, Act 47 is real. It's kept us in line.
Mayor, rebuttal.
Thank you.
Any rebuttal?
Well, I think, again, what we put in place under this economic development over the past 6 or 7 years puts us in a position to be able to work our way out of Act 47. It puts us so that we didn't have to increase the property taxes for 16 years, and any increase in property taxes certainly hurt our senior citizens. And again, we put more money in the working people's pocket by reducing the earned income tax. I think we're steadily positioning ourselves to have a stable government and to move Chester forward in the manner it should be done.
I kind of want to stick with this theme of economic revitalization. This next question is for Councilman Linder. In 2008, in an interview posted online for everyone to see, while you were running for state senate against Dominic Pileggi, you were quoted in the interview as saying, in regard to the revitalization going on in the city, quote, "Right now what you have is a stage set for gentrification, not revitalization." Were you in any way suggesting that the revitalization that has taken place under the Butler administration has benefited the developers or so-called corporate fat cats more than it has the people of Chester? Can you explain that?
Yeah, all we have to do is look around. That explains it. We have people We have people who have come in here and they have worked and taken out boatloads of money, and we don't see any of our people working. We looked at that soccer stadium being built, and I know people have said that there's some jobs available, but when you look at the money that those projects brought to the city and the money that the jobs came through the city without having any kind of serious economic development, I got a real problem with that. Harris has made a lot of money. Who would think that you make $200 million sitting around in Chester under the conditions that we live under? But we have to, when I say regentrification, we have to make sure that what's being built on the river side of 291 helps to benefit the people on this side of 291. And we can't let people continue to come in here and take money out of here, and we have one of the poorest educational systems in the state or even in the country. That's what I meant about regentrification.
Mayor, gentrification is a strong word, obviously, meaning it plays on the poor side of any community. Your response to that, to the councilman alluding to it being more gentrification than revitalization?
Well, I like the jobs that we're giving as of the economic development. The front end of that is all the construction jobs, which were livable wages. On the back side of that, you know, we got employment for Chester residents at entry level and also at managerial level. We did have Clark Resources come into Chester to oversee this large development to make sure that we had a greater percentage than we've had in the past of reaping the benefits of wages and employment as a result of, you know, this economic development that has taken place. And we've even extended out to procurement into our businesses that were already in place because we wanted them to take a part of this newfound economic development as well. We've gotten people from, you know, the DAP, Diversity Apprentice Program, involved in this, entrepreneurships, you know, journeymen, all Chester residents that were able to lift themselves up by being involved in the economic development.
Rebuttal? Any rebuttal?
Yeah, you know, I'm happy that they got to work for a couple of weeks or a couple of months out of that, but we need sustainable jobs that go across the years. Clark Resources did come in here. My understanding is when he first came here, he came here from Harrisburg. He was following the dollars that was being allocated from Harrisburg. Then he was hired as a consultant. And I heard him over Chester High said, billions of dollars are going to come through Chester, and I'm going to get a part of it. As a consultant, I had a problem with that because he was supposed to be the watchdog for make sure that people got their money.
As I alluded to earlier, this debate is an audience-driven debate. So the majority of the questions will come from the audience. So with that in mind, this next question is for Mayor Butler. The question asks simply, what plans do you have to implement President Obama's Strong Cities, Strong Communities initiative, which the city of Chester was selected as one of, I believe, 6 cities across the country?
Well, the plans are already in work now. There are a team of individuals coming from such departments as HUD, the cops, and transportation, and a few other federal departments. They have personnel here on the ground now. They've come, they've met with stakeholders. They're bringing their best here, you know, their best practices, and also to learn from us. How do they cut down, in their words, silos, us dealing with Washington, D.C.? In other words, cutting through an awful lot of red tape so that we can accomplish a lot of our mission statement. I was at a debate here the other night, and Calvin Hudnut from Department of Justice was involved in trying to help us curb some of the violent issues. We are talking to people from Washington, D.C. about a transportation center. At one point in time, the train would stop there and would stop here in Cary, Philadelphia, and Boston. and that ceased for whatever reason. So we're trying to get that recaptured, and the federal people are meeting to try to help us with that, again, to bring more and more people into the city of Chester.
Councilman Leonard, let me follow up and just ask you, along those same lines, do you think this is a serious effort by the Democratic Party to help an economically distressed city, or nothing more than a photo op for the president's team and the Democratic Party? Because some have suggested this plan may not, in the end, bring many jobs or economic revitalization at all. It's just nothing more than the mayor or the president reaching out to a city that he thinks he can get publicity off of, the Democratic Party.
Well, you know, there's a lot of ways to get publicity off of Chester, but I don't think that it's a farce on the president's part. I think what we have to do is look at the reality of why we were really chosen. It wasn't because necessarily of Mayor Butler being endorsed by President Barack Obama. It was because on the index level of the things that make our city and give us problems, we were high in crime, we were high in drugs, high in shootings and deaths of young people, high in unemployment, and lacking in the business and the job development area. So those indexes, they looked at across the country. We were labeled one of 6 cities of this type. So I think what it is up to us is to maximize the use of the attention that we're getting from the Obama administration, get through that resource maze, the granting, funding, and all of that, and that's what this allows to us, an opportunity to do that. And I think, you know, we can maximize that and get the best use out of that and get some funds. They didn't promise any funds with it. That's what it is that we've got to do the planning and make sure we get their attention on projects and things that we want. I think it's a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Councilman Lindner, this question comes from the audience. Mayor Butler has kept property taxes from being raised over numerous years, I think 16 years and going. What would you do to ensure it stays this way, or do you plan on raising property taxes if you are elected mayor?
No, I don't plan on raising property taxes, but we got to ensure the economic base somehow for the city. You know, I applaud that we, again, have not raised property tax, but again, the property tax has not been raised, but the quality of the housing has gone down because of other things, the social factors in the city. And what we have to do is we have to make this city more attractable. We've got to get the blight out, work on that, get the crime down, and get the quality of life here better so that we can attract the kinds of people who can help us shore up the economic base without raising the taxes. No, I applaud that you haven't had to raise taxes, but did the quality of life change, and what are we going to do about that? And that's what I plan to do if I'm elected mayor.
Mayor Butler, again, you've been able to manage the city and run the city without raising taxes, but we are in a serious economic state, not just here in the state, but across the country. Do you foresee the possibility of having to raise taxes in the near future in order to meet some of your goals and to enhance the city, including hiring more police officers?
No, we're not going to raise taxes. That was one of the good features of Harris. With them coming here, we get $10 million into the general revenue fund for as long as they're going to be here. The budget is now $42 million, so it's about 1/4 of that. That helps us not raise taxes. But again, because of the game planning of getting business into the city, it positions us so as we get to this end of the Keystone Opportunity Zone, we'll be self-sufficient. And that is the role of what we're doing and why we're working towards that. So we will be able to hire police, fire, and civilian workers without running up the flagpole to the state to see if we get their blessings.
Okay. This next question comes from the audience for Mayor Butler. Do you think that the city of Chester will ever get a supermarket? If so, what do you plan to do to get the supermarket to come, or a supermarket to come to Chester, which has been talked about for quite some time?
You're absolutely right, Dre. This started in 1996 with a Hope 6 grant through the Housing Authority. Now, I was a police chief then, but up at 15th and Highland Avenue, they had a groundbreaking, all the hoopla. It was supposed to be a strip mall put there. We're fasting forward to 2011, and I don't see a supermarket. I know that I've been meeting with elected officials and also the Honorable Judge Norma Sapero, who's the receiver over the Housing Authority. She promised me and us that we're going to get a supermarket. And so we're still talking to developers and operators to see if we can't get this deal done. We put that land into the KOZ to sweeten the pot. We have money for the infrastructure, and we've told each developer and operator that have come to the city. From my understanding, they just put a sign up at 15th and Highland with, I guess that's a hope that they're nearing getting a letter of intent signed with some developer and some operator so that 80% of my family can go down there and go to the shopping and go to the market as well.
Councilman Lindner, your plan to, what could you do to try and get a supermarket to come here to Chester?
You know, we can get an international casino here. We can get a soccer stadium with an international team, but we can't get a supermarket. I do know that State Representative Kirkland had secured $5 million for a supermarket. And through political gerrymandering, and we know whose tricks they are, we can't get somebody decided that it was a bad idea to put it on that side of town and we should be on this side of town. We should have 2 supermarkets by now, and 3, one in the middle of the town. But we can do everything. If we can do that, we can get a supermarket in this town. Our education is down in the tubs, and we can't get a supermarket. We spend $42 million a year on somebody else's markets. We should have a supermarket here, and that will be one of my first goals I'll work on as mayor. Get a supermarket here. Meet with the people who can bring it here. I've already met with some people and say that it's possible to have a supermarket here.
So is it a problem with getting the developers to come to Chester, or is it political posturing on the behalf of politicians?
I'll tell you what one of them said, at least 2 of them said, it's the political posturing that goes on. That's what they said. However, the developer did say, for the size of the city that we are, it would only take half of the amount of money that we spend in other people's supermarket to bring a supermarket here. We're not going to get a big, giant red card.
Mr. Mayor, any rebuttal at all to, it sounds like the councilman is alluding to political posturing, which I'm sure he's not talking about within his own party.
Well, we've been working night and day. Again, you know, I don't care if it's across the aisle or where it comes from. The key is getting a developer and an operator here. Again, we put in the incentives for them to come to build the market, to make it, and my goal is, I hope it's going to be sustainable because we want to see the market will be the anchor, and I want to see those other stores, and you know, I am talking about 15th and Highland Avenue.
Okay. Want to now, this next question will be for Councilman Lindner, if we can shift the theme down to an issue that has received a lot of attention here in Chester, that is our education system. There have been protests, students have walked out, parents have cried and pleaded for someone to do something. This question comes from the audience for Councilman Lindner. How are you going to address the educational system in Chester Upland School District? And how have you been involved with the Chester Upland School District?
Well, anyone living here who pays attention to education just about has been involved in some part. But I'll start out by saying this. I'm a graduate of Chester Upland School District, And I know what kind of products can come from this city. You yourself, Mr. Clark, is one. We can produce when we get together and decide we're going to produce. Right now, the educational system is down because we have, first of all, we've got overspending. We got administrators who don't administer. We've got teachers. We got a lot of good teachers, but we got conditions in the school. You can't educate in any urban community 45 kids in the classroom at high school or elementary. You can't do it. So, secondly, as a college professor, I see the end results of what comes out of Chester. And I've run my own charter school. We were successful. Again, politics, but that's another story. But the bottom line is, with the same children that go to the other schools, we made AYP, and we were successful in getting rid of $1.3 million worth of debt at that school. And if we could do it at that small level, we can do it at the macro level throughout Chester Upland School District. I know how to get these kids to learn. I can do it.
Mayor Butler, again, the question of bridging the gap between city politicians and essentially the Board of Education. What can you do as mayor, or even in your next phase, if you are again elected, to improve the school district?
Well, first of all, when the new governor came in and I got wind of that budget and he said he was going to cut spending in the schools, I mean, I was appalled at that. I filed a letter out to him saying that I want to know what he's doing when he started talking about cutting school spending. I mean, it's just something that, you know, should not even be in anybody's mind. With that, I did talk to one of the legislators, and I said, look, this is crazy. You can't have that. $10 million was put back to try to help. I was looking forward to $20 million being returned that they said that would be the deficit. Certainly, it has to be managed properly. Look, I get blamed for the school district. I think it's time for myself, my counterparts in Upland and Chester Township, to petition the state, to have more influence over it, to see if we can't get a superintendent, get a CFO in there that can manage this thing so that our children can learn properly and move this district ahead the way it should be.
Mayor, just as a follow-up, because there's been some confusion, can you clear up whether or not the mayor has any oversight at all when it comes to the school board? Because I know there's been some questions as to what the mayor really can do. Can you explain how does that work?
The mayor's position, you don't have oversight over the school. That's a separate.
Hold on. Go ahead.
That's a separate entity, as the same with the housing authority. You know, they have their own board, you know, their own budget, but they are, of course, in part in the city of Chester.
Okay, all right. This next question, again, coming from the audience along the same lines of education, sticking with that theme for Mayor Butler. What additional grants or funding are you currently seeking to bring back teachers to the Chester Upland School District to ensure that our children have the proper education to compete with surrounding schools?
Well, on our side, we don't prepare the grants. You know, I've been in support of the Chester Upland School. By the way, I'm a product of Chester Upland School District as well. So as my children and also my grandchildren are going there. We don't prepare budgets, you know, for the school district.
But has there been, I think the question, has there been any consideration for somehow seeking funding to bring teachers back?
Oh, sure, I would. Sure, I would do that. No doubt about it. The thing that I'm very much proud about is the fact that, you know, we were able to get $4 million to buy the Chester Upland School District into the Delaware County Community College. We were one of only one or two districts that were not members of the Delaware County Community College, you know. So now that enrollment for Chester people is up 50%, and we pay 50% less per credit as people in Ridley and Radnor and Springfield and all the other districts. And I think it's going to pay profound effects going forward.
So in regards to that question, what I heard you say is you would be willing to do it.
Yes.
But as far as you know, that has not been actively done thus far.
That's correct.
Okay. Councilman Linder, the same question. What have you done or what will you do in terms of seeking funding to help get teachers back into the classroom here in the Chester Upland School District?
When I came home from Washington, D.C. in 1989, I started vigorously fighting for special needs children and their rights for education here in Chester Upland School District. With some parents, and some of them could be in this room, we sued the school district and won a federal court case. So we know how to do that. In fact, the way the status of some of these students are now, there may be another court case coming up very soon. However, the mayor is exactly right that we don't, that the school district and the city are two separate entities. But what we have to do is make some of these companies and some of these places like Harris and so forth, that we can get them to contribute money that will help us have a pot of money to help the school district. There's no way in the world anybody should be coming here making $200 million and we got to fail the school system.
Mayor, any rebuttal at all? Any rebuttal? Your chance to rebut if you have.
Well, I think that the private sectors that are here in the city are now learning that they're all part of the city of Chester. I mean, I know they have in some small ways, you know, ponied up $250,000 for, you know, computers at the high school, a whole computer system at the YWCA, you know, has sponsored trips, you know, for kids under our recreational design, and you know, certainly I have no problems in reaching out to them and asking them for more to help the school district here.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as a housekeeping note, as a moderator, I've been given the responsibility of keeping this debate in order, and I will do just that. I'm going to ask that you refrain from any disrespectful comments or laughter, regardless of whether or not you agree. Keep in mind, this is for you, and so by pausing and having to stop, you are perhaps forfeiting someone else from having the opportunity to have their question answered. Thank you so kindly. Next question is for Councilman John Linder. If elected, how do you plan to work with the county so that Chester can receive its fair share of funding? From the audience, that question comes from.
But that's fine. It's a reality. The county has to, one, start working with Chester like Chester at the way it sits in the county. Chester's the only city in the county. And we should be leading in a number of areas. Everything comes from Chester, goes out to the county, and then has to work its way back, especially in the crime area. I plan to work with them, and go out there and talk to them. I want them to know that I'm here to work with them. I want to cooperate with them. But I have no problem with the county. I think I will hold them responsible for what comes here. Millions of dollars comes out to the county, and it comes out to the county because of Chester. And many times it doesn't work its way back to Chester. So that's the kind of thing that I want to follow the lines of the money that comes here and take our rightful place. On county council, we need representation out there. This is a voting year. So we need to put people out there who are sensitive to Chester and Chester's needs. So I don't think I'll have a problem working with the county. I want to work with them and make sure that we take our rightful place in terms of the only city in this Delaware County.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, is there any type of, as the current mayor, any type of disparity when it comes to proper funding? Are you of the belief that Chester is not getting its proper share of county funding at all?
Always want more money to manage the city, of course. You know, what has happened? When I was in the police department, the funding streams went from federal government to the state to the county. When I was over there just to manage the police department, I used to get almost $600,000. Well, that helped make the police department whole. Under the new designs and guidelines now, when you get that kind of money, you have to split it up between 4 and 5 municipalities. I don't like that. You know, other than $600,000 now, for instance, like we're getting maybe like $130,000. Well, after I outfit computers and buy a couple of cars, that money is eaten up. Well, that's the new design on how the funding has to be divvied up. You know, so, I mean, if I can change that, where we can go back getting our full share, that's what I would want to see.
Keeping along the lines, unless you have rebuttal, Councilman Linder, at all.
No, I agree with it. I think that's right on time. We got to, look, Frederick Douglass, power concedes in nothing without a demand. And we've got to go out there and structure ways to get that. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I think we have to show our worth. And right now, I think with everything that's coming to Chester, we're certainly showing that we have much more worth for the county as a whole. And they've got to learn to participate with us and help us out.
Another question from the audience when it comes to who's getting what and why for Mayor Butler. The question is, why is it that Harris and PPL Park receive a 10 to 15-year tax credit, but the local investors doing total renovation do not?
Well, how that all started, it was a state plan called the Keystone Opportunity Zone, and that was placed on blighted vacant land and empty buildings. We did not know at the time when that was put in place that, you know, a harness race tracking company would come, and then following that, Harris on the site where it used to be Sunship Building and Dry Dock. The same thing with PPL Park. The KOZ was already in place. You know, it wasn't designed for them. They did their due diligence, and they came here and saw that the state had okayed us to do the Keystone Opportunity Zone, especially along the waterfront. So when they showed up, that was the incentive that, you know, was in place. I mean, again, the good news is that come January 1, come 2014, all those taxes and stuff that they're not paying through incentives now will be off the table, and they have to pay their full assessed value. So that means those millions are going to be coming into the general revenue fund and make running the city much, much more easier going forward.
Councilman Linder?
Yeah. No, I agree that the KOZ was the big issue there in allowing these companies to come in, but I think, again, there has to be some representation at the table when those deals are being brokered. And many times I know they were brokered without the people of Chester in mind. And so, yeah, you give them a break. A tax break is an incentive for them to come here. But not, it shouldn't put the city in bankruptcy because they're here and they're making money. We've got to go back to that table. Back to the table. We got to revisit some of those contracts. We got to get the kind of legal counsel who can sit down there and broker those deals and make sure we understand the ifs clauses and the sub clauses so that it comes out that Chester is going to be on the winning side of this and not somebody sitting here for 15 years making all this money and drive down the Delaware River with a big boatload of money with Chester's name on it. We got to stop that.
Next question for Councilman Linder from the audience. With all of your work experience, how come you do not list the Village Charter School where you received $90,000 pay and paid your security people $30,000?
Well, I do have it on my resume. In fact, I have a resume here with the Village Charter School, and I talk about my experience at the charter school all the time. And as far as me making $90,000 and security people making $30,000, I got a few more educational degrees than they do. So I should get a servant is worthy of the hire. Let me say this. Let me say this. I don't mean to be demeaning, I'm just saying, I'm a homeboy who grew up here and paid my price to go get educated and came back to provide something meaningful. I sit around and I'm talking about going and fighting for the educational rights of these children. I've gone and fought and gone to federal court and spent my money, part of that $90,000, for parents who didn't want to do it on their own children. I've given it back, and I don't apologize for that. I think what we need to do, instead of focusing on what I made at the charter school, is we need to look at some of these people who were sitting here on council and some of these people who were, as lawyers and judges, making all this money and going out of here, and you don't see a dime of it. Some people in here had 7 jobs, and nobody said a word about it. So I don't apologize for it, and I think I've given more to this community than many people probably in this room. I'm not going to apologize for that.
Mr. Mayor, any response at all? I could just move on to your next question.
I don't mind the councilman saying people on council making money. Last time I looked, my pay was so mean, you know. I don't need it. Oh, okay, thank you. You said it wasn't meant for me, though. Okay. I have that one singular job, and I mean, I do understand some of the things that the councilman is saying. You know, me being here, I'm taking money out of my pocket so often because we all have a heart for at least these young kids that are running around. And you see them, and you know they miss breakfast in the morning. I go in there, take a 10 and 20, and you keep doing that over a period of time. You know, I think it hits home for them. Yeah.
Any rebuttal? Councilman Linder?
No, I think but people know our hearts for the city. I don't have to qualify that. Let's move to the next question.
Next question is for Mayor Butler. In recent days, there has been a lot of talk about one sign in particular. The sign reads as follows: Obama team picks Chester and Mayor Butler, and so should you on November the 8th. It has been alleged that it's misleading and false and deceptive, and also that you have never met nor spent time with President Barack Obama.
Okay.
First, can you clear up whether or not you've ever, or anyone in your campaign has ever received a call from the Obama administration as it relates to your campaign? And do you believe the ad was in any way deceptive?
No, I mean, my campaign did not get a call from the president or his people saying that they were endorsing me or my slate. What that refers to is the SC2 people coming to Chester. They had selected Chester, which I was excited about. I couldn't believe it. Them sending in the CST team based on the accomplishments that they had seen here in Chester. You know, we're talking about that economic development, balanced budgets, new affordable housing, you know, the infrastructure. You know, it's the Obama's team. It's the Obama's team carrying out his initiative. That's exactly what it is. And based on what they saw here in the city of Chester, and then they were just astounded at what they saw during their site visits.
Councilman Linder, the Democratic Party has made quite a, for lack of a better word, hoopla about this particular sign, and there have been many quotes printed as it relates to this particular issue. Do you in any way find the sign deceptive?
Yes. As Mayor Butler stated, the SC2 team did identify Chester for specific reasons. No problem with that. And I didn't have a problem with them saying that and reflecting that. I think the deception comes when you put the president on the same billboard as the mayor, and it implies that the president endorsed the mayor to vote for November the 8th, and that is deceptive. And now, whether the mayor did it, whether his team did it, whether his advisors did it, it's still deceptive. If we're going to tell the truth, we can't lose our integrity over a vote. We've got to make sure we teach the right lessons all the way if we're going to use that. And you can't insult the president. The president is not endorsing a Republican when the Republican is down in Washington trying to kill him. He's not going to endorse the Republican. So all I'm saying is that the mayor and the Butler team, they understand politics. There's certain things you can do, there's certain things you can't do, and the Democrats responded because they have a right to do that, and they have a right to have clarity, and you can't lead with deception.
I mean, I guess that's the way some people can interpret it. You know, I just looked at it to let the people in this town know and around that we were selected one of 6 cities across this nation to be part of the President's initiative. That's how I looked at it. That's how I looked at it. And I was just proud of the fact that, you know, the people in Chester were selected. And I know what we get out of it will be better off than if that had never happened.
Councilman Leonard, this next question is for you. Of course, we can't have a debate without discussing something that has a lot of people, many people, if not all people, concerned in the city, and that is the issue of crime. A common complaint among residents: too many crimes, not enough police protection, and more needs to be done to stop it. As Director of Public Safety, can you outline what violence prevention plans or initiatives you have launched so far to help reduce crime, and what would you do to continue that as mayor?
Well, unlike many cities, the Director of Public Safety usually has fire and police. In Chester, we're departmentally driven, so the police are under the mayor. Fire is under my department. We did have a person's going into school teaching children on the prevention and about violence and bullying. But as far as the police or disbursement of those, I don't have control over that. But I do have some things that I would do as mayor and with the police department. I think we should have a state-of-the-art public safety. We should have a state-of-the-art police department, a state-of-the-art fire department. We've been dealing in the fire department some issues that have been festering for the last 10 years, and we've come into some closure there. It's contract time now, and I want them to get what they want without bankrupting the city. In terms of anti-violence, man, we've got to get into the whole psychology of what's going on with the guys on the street and the homes that they come out of. You know, we're in a cycle of social failure, conditioned inferior attitudes, frustration, aggression, and then the explosion. Bam, somebody gets shot. So my goal as mayor would be to help the police get cameras in those cars, get more police on the street, hire more police. We're going to have to invest in that and get them the best training that we can about the 21st century culture that we're living in now. You can't do it with a 20th century attitude and a 20th century police force.
Councilman, if I may, you mentioned that grant where you mentioned going into schools, but it's my understanding that grant was lost and that's no longer happening?
Yeah. When I came on board, there was a violence prevention grant, and it didn't get renewed, so we don't have that. But we still do have some training going on from the Department of Health, and going around teaching kids about anti-bullying and shooting. We got a program called Eddie the Eagle that deals with guns and so forth. So we still have that. But again, truthfully, we don't have a grant writer. Okay. We need a grant writer. There's a lot of money out there.
Mr. Mayor, again, the issue of crime and outlining what you have done thus far to help reduce crime in this city.
Well, that's one of those reasons why we need to work our way out of Act 47. Because, in my opinion, I need about 115 to 120 police officers so we can specialize in being proactive instead of always reactive to crime. Some of the things that we did do a grant. We reached out to the COPS grant. We hired 5 police officers for 3 years. That doesn't cost the taxpayers a dime. I created the confidential crimes card because a lot of people were telling me if they call 911 or they send a message to the police department, their name will be exposed, and they didn't want that. So under that crimes card, they just print on the information that they want on there, drop it in any mailbox, and the chief gets the information the next business day. You know, I created the pedal bike unit so that we're able to get more into neighborhoods versus just answering the service calls from the from the car. And we also just instituted a brand new drug unit, passive dogs, that'll be going in these various areas sniffing out drugs, guns, and they also are trackers, so that when perpetrators commit a crime, the dog can track them right to the source, wherever they are. If they hide under a bush in a home, it leads the police officers right there. It's just another great tool that they can use to help address crime.
Follow-up question and final question for the debate. This comes from Desire Grover. She writes, Desire is here. Where are you? Desire, right here. From what I understand, she writes, we have a large amount of our city's gun homicide cases that are unsolved, over 84%. What do you plan to do to reduce the high number of unsolved homicides? Mr. Mayor.
Well, that's one of the things why I instituted the gun buyback. But let's be realistic. The men and women of the Chester Police Department, when you have these horrible incidents of shootings, in almost 70% of them, they know who the perpetrator is and who the conspirators are that are working with them. But, as you well know, we need testimony. You need corroborative testimony to say, that person did it, I saw it, I know who they are. I mean, in the absence of that, we try every other avenue we can to bring a perpetrator to justice. But remember now, when it comes down to homicides, attempted homicides, you only get one bite of the apple. If we don't get them in there and get them convicted right there and then, they can walk right out of that room and say, yeah, I did it, and by law, there's nothing we can do about it. So it has to be that strong cooperation of feeding information to the investigators so that, again, they can try any other way they can to get this person into the criminal justice system.
All right. And that concludes the Q&A portion of this debate, or forum, if you will. The candidates have agreed to give closing statements, 2 minutes each, I believe, beginning with the mayor. Mayor Butler.
In the weeks leading up to an election, there's a lot of talk about who should be elected. It can sometimes be confusing for the voters to sort out the facts. So, if you or your children or friends have enjoyed the new Boys and Girls Club, gotten help finding a job from the Chester Workforce Development Center, are happy that the tuition to the Delaware County Community College for you, your family, and your friends who live in Chester is half of what it used to be. If you are happy that the real estate taxes have not gone up in 16 years, that the earned income tax has been lowered, if you have visited and enjoyed the Martin Luther King sculpture in Memorial Park, if you, a friend or family member, is working at PPL Park, if you enjoy the Riverfront Ramble every year, if your friends or family were one of over 300 residents that were able to purchase a home in Chester using the Chester Home Buyers Assistance Program, if you, a friend or family member, are now residing in Chestnut Ridge, Crozier Hills, Union Square, Wellington Heights, or Pentecostal Square. If you think it is a good thing that the Obama administration selected the city of Chester as one of only 6 cities in the entire country for the Strong Cities, Strong Communities program, and that the homicide rate currently has fallen over 30%, then you should vote the Butler team. At the end of the day, it comes down to who the voters believe can do the best job for Chester. I can tell you that I am extremely proud of what I've been able to accomplish during my time as mayor, and I invite the voters to reflect on what has been done on your behalf and think what can be accomplished in 4 more years.
Councilman Lindner. Councilman Lindner. Councilman Lindner.
Yes, I got to take 2 of those things off that list, Mayor, because Pentecostal Square was done by the church down there, and Chestnut Ridge was done before you became mayor. So I want to make sure. But anyway, if you're tired of a murder rate of about 16.7 murders per year across the 10-year stretch, if you're tired of places like Harris Casino coming in making $200 million, and we got people down here in a poverty rate of 20% who are not making nothing, you need to look at that. If you're tired of our school and educational system, and even though the mayor's office is separate from the school, I agree with that, but there's much more we can do. School has a budget of it had a budget of $121 million, and the city has a budget of $42 million. Something's wrong with that picture, and we can't get our kids graduated from high school with more than an 8th grade reading level. If you're tired of that, if you want infrastructure development, and you want a person who can lead this city with a vision, a real vision, and have some skills, improvement skills, regardless of how much I made at the charter school, I made a difference at that school, and it's on the record at the state of what I did. So if you want that, then I'm running, and I want your vote for mayor. I believe I can do everything the mayor has said and more. So I'm just asking you, on November 8th, you go out there. The mayor's track record is his track record, but I have established a track record in this city for moving up and revitalization. I can do a number of things that haven't been done yet, and I think I've established the kind of resource development and connections to move this city forward. I thank you for your vote, November the 8th.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the mayoral debate for this evening. Let me just say first thank you to Mayor Wendell Butler and Councilman John Lindner. Please hold your seats just for a moment. Hold your seats, hold your voices if you may. Thank Mayor Wendell Butler and Councilman John Lindner for agreeing this is the first, last, and only debate, at least that I know of, that's going to happen. But more importantly, we hope that in some way, for those of you who are listening, and for those of you who are here, that you will in some way find that what these gentlemen said to you enlightening, informing, and it will empower you on November the 8th, rain, shine, wind, whatever the case may be, to leave your homes and do your civic duty and vote, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. In college, we had a saying, if you don't vote, shut up. So, we sincerely hope, the organizers of this debate sincerely hope that you have got something out of this experience with the candidates, and that you will indeed go and vote on November the 8th. And regardless of what happens, just remember that those of us who live in this city, those of us who are proud of this city, we are in this thing together. So regardless of who wins what, we still have to work together to make this city a better place. Thank you. Council candidates will be debating within 5 minutes. If you are staying around for the council portion of the debate, please hold your seat. Manny, what's up, baby? What's going on? Thank you, sir. Was it okay? Hey!
Very proud of you.
Thank you so much. Okay, please do. No, I'm eating chicken like crazy, but you know. Okay, you got it. You got my information. You gave me an hour. Yeah, but I'm about to do it. Attention everyone. Attention everyone. Can you please be seated?
Attention everyone, the event has not ended. We still need you to stay seated.
Somebody's introducing them, just the NAACP.
NAACP.
I think they might.
What? Okay, we're going to try and start the debate for council candidates. Yeah. Yeah, so because I got to go to work in a minute. All right, we're going to start here momentarily. Are they here? Where are they? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could get you to take your seats here so we can start, because we have to start on time as close as possible because we have to be out of here by a certain time. So again, could you please take your seats? All right, thank you guys for being patient. We want to, again, get the ball rolling for the council portion of tonight's debate. To introduce the council candidate is Christina Dova, who is a sophomore here at Widener University, a political science, a dual major, political science and international relations. She is also vice president of the NAACP Widener campus. Let's welcome Christina.
Good evening. Once again, I am Christina Dova. I am currently the Vice President of the NAACP Widener chapter. I am also a lifelong resident of Chester. All right. On behalf of the NAACP Widener chapter, we would like to introduce tonight's City Council candidates: Councilman Shepard Garner, Nolan Woodland, Nafis Nichols, and Elizabeth Williams.
Okay. Sorry, I got a script here and I got to follow it. I don't have the benefit of a teleprompter to help me out. So these, again, are the rules that the candidates have all agreed upon before tonight's debate. Just like the mayoral debate, each council candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer questions. Is that correct? They will not be making opening statements. And again, for the council candidates, the timekeeper is in front of you.
Yellow means 30 seconds. Red means essentially you need to stop. This portion of the debate is completely, unless something goes wrong, is completely audience driven. The questions are in no particular order. They were screened and they are being read as they were given to me. The candidates will be asked questions in rotation for 20 minutes. The first question will go to Shep Gardner, followed by Nafis Nichols, followed by Mr. Nolan. The question is as follows from the audience, beginning with Mr. Gardner. What is your plan to address crime and the lack of jobs in the city, especially for young adults?
Well, to address crime, I think we first need to start mentoring groups and continue to support those kind of groups because that's what it's all about. A lot of the times you have young individuals coming from broken families, not having a lot of support. I think we need to get around these kids, hug them, make sure that they understand that, you know, we're here for them. A lot of times they see us, you know, as adults. We're the ones arguing and, you know, deciding what side we're on. They see the blue side over here, the red side over here. That's part of the problem. We're teaching them to be separate and to be different with the vision. You know, we argue about, you know, things that really shouldn't matter like science. That's ridiculous to me. But the first thing we need to do is come up with ways to get the attention of our young people and mentor those groups and make sure they stay on the right path. Because, again, I'm a father. I have a child, 3 children, two of them, one 16 and one 13. So it's just as important to me to address crime as it is as anybody in this audience.
Mr. Nichols.
First and foremost, good evening to everyone. I work with young people, have worked for young people for years, and I know that the majority of the crime is among the youth. And one thing Councilman Garner said was correct. They see, because I've walked the streets of Chester the last year and heard what young people and adults said, they see it at the top. We at the top have to stop what we do as it relates to crime, and we have to make sure that we're consistent with reducing crime. You know, if you go to Brookhaven, you go to Upland, you go to Delaware, what we do in Chester, as Chester residents, we put on our seatbelts, we turn down our music, we won't litter, but we won't do it in our own city. We don't do it in our own city because we don't take our leadership serious enough, because our leadership isn't consistent. So, as a council person, I pledge to you that there will be consistency as it relates to crime. Jobs. Our young people aren't working. Some of our middle-aged people aren't working. Our wise people aren't working. I don't call people old, wise. Get that straight. We have to do more training. We have to do more education, and we're going to do it. We have to bring things to Chester. We've been in conversation with people over the last year. They're ready to come here. They're ready to put our young people to work. They're ready to change this thing around here in the city of Chester. I know how to do that because I've ran summer internship programs in the city of Chester for the last 4 years with corporations outside of Chester and got people meaningful employees. Your daughter's there. She's at Harris, and she's not making a minimum wage job down there. She's in the marketing department making a sustainable amount of money.
Mr. Nolan, same question. What is your plan to address crime and the lack of jobs in the city, especially for young adults?
To address crimes, first thing we need to understand is a criminal act starts in the emotions in the mind of a person. So what we need to do is help young people learn to manage their emotions, and that starts at a very young age. I am a Temple University trained educator, school teacher. When you see a young person starting to have a problem, who's having problem managing their emotions, you have to intervene at a very early age. You cannot wait. You see a small child who is uncomfortable, you can't let them get to be 12 or 13 years old when the shooters and the hustlers out there become role models to them. It's going to be too late. One of the other problems in this community is simply that the judicial system keeps recycling violent criminals back to our community. Once a shooter becomes a shooter, you can't bring him back to this community until he has been completely and thoroughly rehabilitated. Now, of all the uniformed police officers in this city, guess what? There are 37,000 non-uniformed police officers in this city. We have to watch our neighborhoods. Don't be afraid. I don't say confront, but we have to be willing to give information. Don't shut your door. Talking about jobs, the community has to become welcoming to entrepreneurs. When we get on top of crime, people are going to want to come in here with jobs.
The second question coming from the audience will be answered by the following. First, Ms. Williams, followed by Mr. Gardner, followed by Mr. Nichols. Again, this order all agreed upon by the candidates. The question for Ms. Williams is as follows. What qualifies you to be a council person or a city department head?
I'd like to say good evening to everyone. I have 45 years of experience in the insurance industry, 25 years of management ability and experience, and 25 years of job developers. And with the companies that I've worked for, the Fortune 500 companies, they have taught me to lead and to serve and to work all the time. So I know that I can run a department in the city of Chester with all that I have learned from my Fortune 500 experience.
Well, let me just clear the record. I mean, I work all the time too, but that doesn't necessarily qualify me to be a council person. First of all, I'm a voice for this community. I think first and foremost, that's the most important thing. The next thing is I have a financial background, and given my background in both government and on the private sector, I think that's going to influence this city to take it to the next level. We have things changing every day, like development, as Councilman Linda talked about and the mayor talked about. But we have to have people in place, and to my knowledge, I'm the only one running for council that has any financial background.
Well, don't let the baby face fool you. I have worked since 14. I started in the private sector, worked in nonprofit, worked in healthcare. I've managed $1 million grants. I currently manage $1 million grants. I oversee departments within a massive health system that's in your backyard. The private sector calls me back all the time to come back and do work because at one point I was a retention manager and I was required to go around from store to store to get troubled stores out of trouble, and I did so and always was successful. But I hung that up to do what's right for the community and work for the people, which I've always done. I've worked in many capacities as a community mobilizer. I listen to people. I don't talk to you, I talk with you. And that's something that has to be done on that council, in those council chambers, is someone that's going to talk with you and not to you. I'm not here to say to you, this is what you need. I'm here so that you can have a voice at the table. I'm here to empower you, to motivate you like you motivate me. I don't want to say I didn't want to do this, but for years and years, people said, when are you going to get up there and do what you have to do and run this city? So guess what, Chester? Here's your time, November 8th. You can put me right there so that I can continue to work for you. I work for people now on the community level in many different capacities, as many of you know, and I continue to do so, and I'll thrive to do it. I worked alongside with some great people here. Mayor Butler's one of them. I got the red card.
Mr. Nolan, this next question will first go to you, then Ms. Williams and Mr. Gardner. Again, the city's unemployment rate now projected at 20%. A lot of people either unemployed or underemployed, screaming, literally, for more jobs to come. As a council person, what could you do to usher in more jobs into the city of Chester, Mr. Woodland?
Well, first of all, it starts with partnerships and collaborations. It starts with reaching out to people who have businesses. The Mayor Butler mentioned earlier about the training center, people going into the training center. It also involves people who are in working careers to come into the city to reach out to young folks. Also, one of the important things about education, and I point to Mr. John when I say this, one of the important things about education is teaching students that not only are you in school to do the homework, not only are you in school because the law says you have to be there, you're in school to prepare a way for your life. That's why you're in school. You are in school because school will build the foundation for what you do in life. And the other thing is, in our education, we have to be able to show kids different areas of interest. In terms of businesses, we have to be able to reach out. Sometimes that means leaving the immediate area, going to see what someone else is doing. You know, when I was at Temple University, I had an African professor say to me, any city down through history on a thriving waterway can and will revive itself. I offer you Chester, Pennsylvania on a thriving waterway. Baltimore, Maryland on a thriving waterway with its inner harbor. St. Louis, Missouri on a thriving waterway. Camden, New Jersey on a thriving waterway. The waterway is the genesis effect. We have to help people buy into that. Once we...
Ms. Williams, your plan, if elected as a city council person, what is your plan to usher in jobs, new jobs, to have this residents gainfully employed here in the city?
May the work I've done speak for me. I have placed over 5,000 welfare workers to work. I have trained them, placed them in businesses that they thought they would never be placed in before. Because what I did was preparation. I dressed them for success. I educated them on their skills that they would need in order to work anywhere in the United States. Bringing jobs here, the city has to be more friendly to the businesses that come here. But not only that, once they're here and we're sitting down talking to them, we're going to demand that they offer our young people a certain amount of job, certain amount of job training, also co-op opportunities. So when they come out of Chester High School, they will go to work. Like I did when I left out of Chester High School, I worked. Thank you.
So, Ms. Williams, just so I'm clear, your plan would be to get employers, potential employers in the room and to essentially get a commitment from them to hire people?
Yes.
That would be your plan?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Gardner?
I think the word was demand. And anyone who's been in business, in corporate America, know that it's impossible for us to demand. That's what's going on with the NBA lockout right now. You don't demand, you negotiate. The second thing is, Nolan talked about education, and that's perfect. I'm going to talk about the financial side. And I think what we do is we influence companies to come in here. We influence them by the the Keystone Opportunity Zone. And it wasn't 14 years that those companies got a tax-free. It was 10. If I'm not mistaken. So those things like that, we do to influence. You work on your infrastructure so that people want to come down here. Councilman Linder, you talked about what you want to do as mayor is get rid of the blight, but last I checked, that was your department, and you ain't did nothing yet.
Next question. Councilman Linder's not in the debate, so I can't give him the microphone. I understand your sentiment. Next question for Mr. Nichols. As was alluded to in the previous debate with the mayoral candidates, crime is a pressing issue here in the city of Chester. The common complaint, too many murders, we need more police protection. You have championed yourself as a man of the people, in constant contact with the people. So in your opinion, as a council member, what is it that you can do? Is it initiatives, programs, what can you do to help reduce the number of murders and egregious crimes that we have here in the city?
First and foremost, we need to be sure that everyone is at the table. When we say everyone, we mean businesses, we mean anyone that makes a community, we mean residents, young people, the police, we mean the local government. And in my personal opinion, I think that government, the police department, and community members have the largest piece of the pie when it comes to reducing crime. We as people have to first sit down and have an open discussion and really, you know, dig into and see what the root cause of a lot of this crime is. And from that point, come up with a clear, concise plan to address the crime. We have talked over the last few years about some of this crime that's going on here, but yet and still we're still in the same situation. Understand that last year we had a certain amount of murders, and this year we're down. Statistically speaking, if you look at the murder rates over the last 15 years, it's a roller coaster effect. They go up and down. They go up and down, regardless of what initiatives were put in place. So for me, what we have to do is first sit down and really talk and get to the root cause of it and go into the homes, because it starts at home. You know, go into the schools and really put that supportive system in place, because I don't think that supportive system is placed. For me, I'm tired of putting a Band-Aid on something that needs stitches.
Mr. Nolan, Mr. Woodland, rather, the question again goes to you. You alluded to earlier, I believe in your comments about rehabilitating those who use guns. What other ideas or initiatives might you implement as a way to reduce crime in the city?
Well, I'll tell you something I said to the DA, Mr. Michael Green. When you recycle a murderer back to our community, okay, the person has served their time. When you recycle a murderer back to our community, the drama wakes up again. A significant number of shootings in this community have happened because of revenge. Revenge. There are people who are dead now, families who are hurting because of revenge. I suggested to him, why not let it be a condition of that person's parole that their family have to find somewhere else for them to live? Now, before you think that's unfair, think about this. Would you rather have that person who is just returned living somewhere else and alive, or would you rather have that person here being stalked by someone else? This is something that needs to be seriously considered. Now, in terms of guns, if there were a mountain of guns outside, they would turn to rust if the emotional management of the shooters and the young criminals were intact. Because shooters aren't born. They aren't born. They start with something small. They start with something small. There's a book called The Tipping Point. That's a tipping point. If nobody picks that up and nobody says pick that up, that becomes a trash pile. Same with behavior. If behavior starts from a tipping point and nobody corrects it, that behavior becomes criminal.
Ms. Williams. All right. I'm sure you'll pick it up when you get up. Ms. Williams, the same question to you is, as a council person, if elected council person, what are some of the programs or ideas you have to reduce crime here in the city?
Some of the programs that I have in mind is community policing, where the police interact with the community and that they're walking the beat so that the people in the community will know them by name. And they can also, with the PAL program, they need more police. I haven't seen any police that work with the PAL program here in the city of Chester. If they're there, it's not as much as it need to be. Another thing I had in mind was with our families. The families, we know what's going on here. We know what's going on here in our city. We know where the guns are in our homes. Some of them have them in the house. Do the guns that you have there, are they locked? And how are our children being able to get their hands on these guns? So parents, you have to check those bedrooms, because they don't own them houses. You're renting those houses, and you are the head of that household. So when those guns are in your household, you need to get rid of them. And whether we want to believe it or not, we know.
Mr. Gardner, one of the issues as it relates to crime that any police officer or veteran investigator will tell you that will speak of this phenomenon called snitching, where individuals are afraid to come forward with vital information that could help solve some of the murders and possibly get some of these guns off the street. With that in mind, the question was asked by the audience for Mr. Gardner, followed by Mr. Nichols. Will there be any talks in the future with state officials and or the DA's office about providing funding for a witness protection program here in the city of Chester, or does one already exist?
First of all, I don't attest to that word snitching. I'm not a product of or affiliated with crime. That word is associated with individuals who are in crime, who do the dirt together, and then one tells on another. That's not me. I'm a citizen of this community, and trust me, if I see you doing it, I'm telling you. The next thing is, you talked about a program or funds available for witness protection. To my understanding, that there is a program in Delaware County. However, I think it's important to have one in the city of Chester. I think we need to figure out ways to carve out money for that kind of thing. It's probably going to take more discussion with the mayor and chief, but I'm willing to come up with ideas to fund that rather than fund some kind of emergency management coordinator or whatever Councilman Leonard wanted to do.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gardner, you were, in the end, you were alluding to what?
Well, Councilman Linder talked about funds for, or wanting to create an emergency management department. To me, the county has one. We have an emergency management plan. Those things aren't important to me. It's saving these kids' lives is just what's important to me.
Mr. Nichols, same question. Will there be any talks on your behalf, or have there been any talks on your behalf with state officials or the DA's office about providing some funding for a witness protection program in an effort to help solve more crimes in the city?
Witness protection, to my knowledge, the county does have a program, but it's a program that makes sense at Darby, which is up the street.
I'm sorry?
I said that the county, to my knowledge, does have a program, but it's a program that probably would send you as far as Darby,
okay,
which isn't that far away. So if you're not really protected in my eyes if you're only in Darby. So yes, I know I haven't had any conversation as of yet, but I do have relationships on the county level, the state level, and the federal level with people in the Justice Department, and definitely will have that conversation to leverage some resources. But it is something that I think falls under the mayor's area. Not saying that I'm not for it in the chief's area, but I would definitely have that conversation with those individuals and bring whatever resources and talents that I have to the table to make sure that people in Chester can feel safe and confidence with whomever they're going to give information to and feel protected if they have to go away, maybe to Florida versus Darby.
We're getting close to our time, but before we wrap up for closing statements, let me just wrap up with the question of education for Ms. Williams and Mr. Woodland, beginning with Ms. Williams. No doubt here in the city of Chester, our education system is in a sense broken. Parents are trying to find a way, trying to find resources to better educate their children. As a council person, your ideas or plans on how you can improve the city's education system and how you could better form a partnership with the school board.
You know, it's really something, because I never thought I would see history repeat itself, but history right now is repeating itself in the Chester Upland School District. The education that is not going on in the schools have put our children back so many years. Not only that, the education that is not there has also caused a lot of our young people to be bound for prison. So, as councilperson and already working in the school system and been there for years and years and years, I have a lot of plans for the Chester Upland School District.
You say a lot. Can you name one?
One, the first thing they need to do is restructure the school district. As far as the curriculum, they need a college prep curriculum, and they also need a vocational tech curriculum to put our children in skill-paying positions and put our children in the colleges and be qualified to go to the colleges without having to take preparatory classes before they get there and lose their loans.
Mr. Woodland, some would argue the students don't even have books to read on a daily basis. One contributing factor to why the district schools are in disarray, for lack of a better word. As a council person, same question. What could you do to better improve the relationship between council and the school board and to improve the overall quality of the education system here in Chester?
Before I answer that, I want to go back to this thing about snitching. First of all of us in this room collectively cannot outdo and outreach the kids in those streets, the contacts they make, okay? We are not going to get past the no snitching culture out there until law-making legislators come up with something on the law level that gets around that behavior. Now, let's get to the question of education. Education. That's my baby. I love her. John will tell you I wasn't the best student in high school, but I love education now. Now, the fact of the matter is, when it comes to schools, we have to be active in the schools. Whether you're a parent, community person, you have to be active in the school. That's the bottom line. If you're not active, if you don't make school a part of the community is not part of the school, okay? Now, someone said something about, I think it was Mr. Linder, 45 students in the class. 45 students in the class. I can think of some teachers I had, if there was 50 students or 90 students in the class, you paid attention. You paid attention. It's about management. And education starts before they get to school.
This concludes the debate or question and answer session for council candidates. Each council candidate will provide a 1.5 minute closing statement. Again, these are the rules the candidates agreed upon before this particular debate. They will go in the following order: Ms. Williams, Mr. Woodland, Mr. Gardner, and Mr. Nichols will go last. Ms. Williams, time is yours.
I'd like to thank the sponsors tonight And I'd like to thank everyone that came out here tonight. This really, really makes me feel good to see this many people out here and concerned about the city of Chester. I've been in this community for a very, very long time. I helped free this community. I went to jail for the rights of youth so you could sit in this auditorium right here today. And so my work can speak for me. And as a city council representative, I will serve you 110%. And I know how to work. I know how to read. And I know how to manage. And I have many, many years of management experience, work experience, and volunteering for the city of Chester. So I'm asking you to consider me your city council person. And I bet your bottom dollar you'll be glad I did. You did. And I did. Thank you.
Mr. Woodland.
I've said before, this is about experience. This is about experience. I worked 18 years in manufacturing, petrochemical. I worked in social work, directing the Wesley House, helping displaced families find places to live. I'm an educator. I worked in the health department's injury and violence prevention program, teaching Head Start children, you see a gun, don't touch it. Go tell an adult. That's what you do. And hopefully some of those have grown up and done that. I've served on the housing board. I've served on the elected school board. I'm a member of the Chester School of the Arts. I serve on the Halfway House board. I'm the community representative for the Halfway House, MNSEC. Some of you may know someone there. I've been in this community working. Mayor Butler, 35 years in police department, 10 years in the mayor, 12 departments, 12 years Delcor, 4 years council. You put the Butler team in, you got experience. You put the other team in, you got 24 months with Mr. Linder. That's it. Nobody else has experience. This is about who is prepared to do the job. We are prepared to do the job. I thank the sponsors for coming out.
Mr. Gardner.
This is the point where, we're supposed to come out and ask you guys to vote for us. I'm going to do it a little different. I'm going to ask you guys, from this point until Election Day, do your own investigation. Before you do your investigation, I want you to do one favor. Strip out the labels. Let's get away from Republican, Democrat. Let's get away from what sign is where, and who's in what sign, and who meant this person, and who meant that person. Get away from all that. Because that's not what's important. What I want you to do is do your own investigation. Look at what we've accomplished. Look at the fact that, we've reduced our earned income tax. Look at the fact that we were for the first time in Chester's history, as far as I know, we got an A bond rating. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's a credit score. We got an A bond rating. We have a budget. We reduced our budget by $600,000. Take away all that. Compare our experience, like Nolan said. Compare what we've accomplished. Compare with the infrastructure that we've developed, the housing, and I'm sure you're going to make the right decision.
Mr. Nichols. Mr. Nichols, you have the last word.
In summation, I first would like to thank everyone who organized this debate tonight. John Linder and company and residents of Chester who have shown great support. I think it is important that we not lose sight of what we were here, why we are here, and what's at stake. Not only must we consider the ongoing economic growth and development of this great city, We must also explore the quality of life issues such as violence, substance abuse, unemployment, and inadequate education that are prohibiting our citizens from benefiting in such growth. And as a people, we must question the agenda of an administration who willfully turn a blind eye to these issues and continuously fails to represent the best interests of the public at large. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, we're here to serve all. Therefore, we must elect a government that will place equal emphasis and investment into increase our human and social capital as they do in luring big businesses to our city. We need local government who not only understands how to create and enforce policy, but who is also sensitive enough to acknowledge the disparities and thirst in our community. We need a government that is willing to set aside their own agendas and compassionately consider the constituents in a strategic planning process. Yes, we have come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. We must stop spoon-feeding the public what we believe is best for them and invite them to the decision-making table as vested stakeholders in this community. As the endorsed candidate for Chester City Council, I'm dedicated...
Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading.
Time has expired.
See me afterwards, but November 8th.
Ladies... Ladies and gentlemen, you have just had the opportunity to hear from your candidates for Chester City Council. We'd like to thank Mr. Nichols, Ms. Williams, Mr. Gardner, and Mr. Woodland. Also, before you go, just want to make an announcement that you can also have an opportunity to meet your candidates for the Chester Upland School District or School Board. The date will be November the 3rd. The time, 7 o'clock. The place, Chester Eastside Ministries. The address, 420 East 9th Street, in Chester, PA. We thank you for coming out and supporting this. Again, vote on November the 8th. Good night.